Ladies and gentlemen, Season 7 of Call of Duty Mobile has arrived, which means it's time for our top 10 guns of the season. There weren't a ton of changes to the meta, but definitely a couple of things of note, so for those of you who want to stay in the know on what the best guns to use are, make sure to drop a like on the video and we'll go ahead and hop into it. Big shout out to Call of Duty Mobile for sponsoring today's video. If you haven't already, you can download the game with the link in the description. First off, we got our honorable mentions. One that is not necessarily honorable mention because it's borderline meta, but because of how much better it's going to be this season is the Raw MG. This is an LMG that was completely useless whenever it was introduced into the game. It got a decent buff recently and another really big buff this upcoming season that makes it one of the most accurate LMGs in the game with its bullet spread accuracy buff. And for those of you who've been watching CDM, we've actually seen it come into play in a few situations purely for wallbang purposes because the combination of FMJ and its wallbang magazine make it so it has almost zero damage drop off through walls. Second honorable mention, we've got the SKS. This is one that I've considered putting back into the top 10 just because of how dominant players have been able to be with it, at least as far as rank gameplay goes. Obviously, it's still a very high potential skill gap weapon, but the fact that it is difficult to use and is definitely very easily replaced by the Type 63 makes it tough to include in our top 10. After that, we've got the Fennec and the CX-9, which have obviously been replaced in the meta by superior SMGs, but they have a very, very strong spot in the A tier / off meta category, and especially for extremely aggressive players, both the Fennec and the Burst CX-9 are phenomenal options in Search and Destroy. We are also going to include the KRM in our honorable mentions as well, a very solid shotgun that's probably better all around than the top shotgun on the list purely because of how easy it is to use. It's got a much faster rate of fire, really good one-tap potential, really good mobility, and the main thing that holds it back is just the fact that it doesn't have as good a one-tap potential as the #1 shotgun on our list. Obviously, this is a gun that is always going to be a favorite, especially for Garena players. Coming in at number 10, we've got the only snipers on the list in the Tundra and the 3-line rifle. I know there's a lot of people that would say the Tundra is definitively still the best sniper in the game. And while I would agree with that, for the most part, I do think there is still very much a spot for the 3-line rifle purely because of how fast the ADS speed on it can be. Obviously, the major downsides for the weapon are the slow rate of fire and the bad mobility, but the potential for it having the fastest kill in the game with how quick its ADS is and how consistently it one-taps, I think still justifies putting it in the top 10. At number 9, we've got the only shotgun on the list in the HS-0405. For those of you who've watched CDM, this is one that has completely dominated the competition. Even though it did get a rate of fire nerf a couple of seasons back, it has not hindered its dominance in any way, whether it's hardpoint, control, or search and destroy. You will pretty much always see somebody using this weapon unless it's a massive map, and even then, especially for OBJ players, if you're just trying to lock down close quarter areas, it's still going to be one of the best options in the game. Coming in at number 8, we've got the BP-50. I've slowly seen less and less of this gun as the seasons have gone on since its big nerf. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely still a very, very solid option, probably one of the easier guns to use on this list. Number 1, because you don't necessarily need the mythic version in order for it to be strong. Number 2, because it has a crazy fast rate of fire without having a whole lot of recoil, which means for lower skill players, you can afford to miss more shots while still maintaining a decent time to kill. Obviously, as far as top level ranked and competitive play, it is going to struggle a little bit more because of the damage drop off that it's received, its lack of 4-tap consistency, and the fact that if you switch over to 30-round magazine, it's going to be a lot more difficult to take multiplayer gunfights. Given that overkill hasn't really become a meta perk because of how strong perk greed is right now, I don't feel like this is a top 5 or really even top 7 gun, so I wouldn't recommend using the 30-round mag, but the 60-round, especially for players who are still trying to get a feel for the game, is definitely a phenomenal option. Moving up a spot at number 7, we've got the XM4. Now, this is a gun that you'll see a lot more in competitive COD Mobile because it doesn't have any restricted attachments like a lot of the top guns on this list. One of the big reasons that it's not any higher is because it is so much better with the mythic version than the base. The base irons are definitely not very good, and it's not a weapon that you really want to have to use any extra attachments for throwing on a red dot, but it's probably the best flex AR on the list because number 1, it's got great mobility. Number 2, it's got the potential to 3-shot when landing upper body and headshots. Number 4, it doesn't really have a whole lot of recoil. And number 5, it's pretty usable in just about every situation, which means on any map that you load into, this is going to be a solid option. It doesn't necessarily have a prime range, but like most flex ARs, it's going to outclass the majority of guns in a lot of different categories. Coming in at number 6, we've got the HVK. Obviously, this has been in our top 10 guns for a long time. So for most most of you, this is not going to be anything new. With the large caliber magazine, it has the potential to 2-tap to the head in the first damage phase. It has decent 3-tap consistency, although not nearly as good as some of the better options on this list. It does struggle a little bit with mobility, especially if you're building for really strong bullet spread accuracy, which I would recommend because of how strong its range is combined with its rate of fire. With the one major downside for the weapon being the fact that the large caliber magazine does not have a ton of ammo on it, and with it being a relatively high rate of fire assault rifle, that's something that can typically hold you back a good bit, especially in respawns. This is definitely one I still see a lot in Search and Destroy because of that element, and it's also a relatively high skill gap weapon because of those factors. It doesn't have the best base irons, but definitely usable, and it's very, very strong across a number of different ranges. After looking at the numbers and doing some testing, I'm actually making a last minute change to our top 10 guns list and moving the Odin to the number 5 spot. Here's a few reasons why. Number one, no question, the Odin is a phenomenal option in the game. Easily the best 2-tap assault rifle option with the potential to kill really fast and not a terrible 3-tap time to kill at long range as well. There's a few things that are holding it back relative to another gun that got buffed this season. Number one, the Odin is not nearly as good without the Mythic, and I think that's one thing that typically is going to hold it back from moving up in our top 10 guns. Number two, its lack of consistency whenever it comes to 2-tapping makes it a little bit more difficult to use for lower skill players. And number three, its lack of bullet spread accuracy and its high recoil makes it a little bit more difficult to make sure that you're accurately landing those upper body shots in order to achieve a 2-tap. The combination of those factors and a buff to another one of our top 10 guns is the reason why the DRH for me has actually moved ahead of the Odin in our top 10 guns and is now at number 4. For those of you who didn't see, the DRH got a buff, number one, to its bullet spread accuracy to make it more of a true traditional AR, and number two, got a buff to its hand multiplier, which is going to increase its 3-tap consistency at pretty much every range. Obviously, the DRH was already in our top 10 guns, and I don't think this buff is one that's going to impact it in a massive way, but number one, the DRH is much easier to use than the Odin given its 3-tap consistency. Number two, it's got much better base irons and a lot of free alternatives like legendaries and epics with their own unique irons. So while previously we had knocked it down a few spots on the list because of the dominance of the USS-9, I feel like the DRH is going to climb up a couple spots at the bare minimum and give a little bit more competition for that top spot in the game. Coming in at number 3, we once again have the Type 63. No question, this is the best marksman in the game, with a big advantage for the Type 63 over the SKS being the fact that you do have attachments that are able to increase its rate of fire. It also has better mobility in the same headshot 2-tap and the same headshot 1-tap from anywhere on the map. Even though there are a couple of multipliers that might give a slight advantage to the SKS, there's no question all around the Type 63 is going to be the more dominant option. Coming in at number 2, we once again have the VMP. Very solid option, really good attachments. Both the Mythic and the base version have really good irons, and even on the esports version of the game, we've seen players like AORAF using the base version when the Mythic is available completely for free. Obviously, the VMP is more of a traditional SMG. It really thrives in the close range, has great mobility, but it's not necessarily going to be beaming long range, but it has very good 4-tap consistency, and with that 4-tap time to kill, especially with the rapid fire attachment being substantially below 200 ms, it has a huge time to kill advantage over a lot of alternatives. But anybody who's played ranked this season or in the past 7 seasons will probably not be surprised to see the USS-9 once again at the number 1 spot in our top 10 guns. There was a rumor that the USS-9 was going to get a bullet velocity nerf, but unfortunately that ended up not being the case. So the combination of its close range time to kill and also the fact that it's able to beam long range from pretty much anywhere on the map means the USS-9 is still going to be the go-to weapon for a lot of players in Call of Duty Mobile. I'm curious to hear what you guys think would be a suitable nerf to take the USS-9 outside of the top 5 guns without completely obliterating it into uselessness. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.